Annalise, He paused for 30 seconds before he jerkily pronounced my last name on the attendance paper. Hi, I'm Annie, and I'm 17. This story I'm about to tell you may sound so unreal. It felt like I was being pranked because of how unbelievable it was. Considering the fact that my dad was never in my life, my mom remained a strong, loving single parent who managed to raise me perfectly, and I'm so grateful for that. She has been going out on dates though, but none of them really worked out for her. It all started when I was in college. I was so excited to make new friends, join many clubs, and all that cool stuff. The first class I had was mathematics. I have always hated math, but I dealt with it just fine. Plus, this would be my first math class in college. I walked into the classroom and saw the teacher. Huh? I thought. How funny it is that he kind of reminds me of someone. I looked at him for a few seconds, but didn't start to suspect anything until attendance check. He went about reading everyone's name on the registration sheet and then got to mine. Annalise, He awkwardly paused and looked at my last name for almost 30 seconds. He looked petrified? It was so odd. I thought it was weird, but I still didn't think much of it. After the incident, I met up with my best friend at lunch and told her about the awkward moment I had with my teacher during the attendance check. But she proceeded to explain that he probably just had a hard time pronouncing my last name, which I believed since a lot of people already found it difficult to pronounce. The next day was like yesterday repeating itself. The teacher still kept pausing before reading my last name, and it was starting to bother me. He would intentionally avoid me. Whenever I raised my hand to answer a question, he would ignore me. He wouldn't even make eye contact with me. After a while, I got so annoyed. How could he be so ignorant? Even when I was the only person to raise my hand, he would just say, "So no one knows the answer?" and continued with the lesson. Ugh! Even thinking about it made me so annoyed. So I thought I'd talk to my best friend about it. At least maybe that'd make me feel better. But when I did, she was acting like I was talking nonsense and said that I was maybe thinking too much. This whole thing began to frustrate me, but I still kept quiet and thought things might figure themselves out somehow. I still continued to let this awkward situation go on until the parent-teacher conference. Other than telling my best friend about it, I never mentioned anything to my mom about his weird and rude behavior. We waited outside the classroom for our turn to go in. "Next, please," the teacher called. As soon as the door opened and my mom heard his voice, she looked at him in complete horror. It only continued to grow as she paced closer and closer towards him. What the heck? I thought to myself. As soon as he turned around, my mom looked like she was in complete shock. "Ryan?" She said his name. They looked at each other and everything went silent. He looked just as mortified as she did. "What's going on?" I asked. My mother quickly dragged me out of the classroom and took me to the car. Everything happened so quickly and I was so confused. "Mom, will you please tell me what's going on?" I asked her loudly. Once my mom started to calm down, she looked at me and said, "Sweetheart, he is your father." I was shocked. I knew something was wrong. "He's been weird towards me since day one," I said to my mother. During our ride home, she told me the whole story. My mom and dad had me when they were 18. They both were still in high school, so they couldn't manage to stick together as a family. And their relationship didn't end well since my dad refused to take any responsibilities and left us. I was in complete disbelief. I had wanted to meet my dad for the longest time, waiting for the perfect moment. But meeting him like this wasn't what I really had in mind. Oh well, at least I got to meet him and find out about the whole story. If this hadn't happened, I would have probably stayed clueless about my dad for a long time, or maybe even for the rest of my life. I didn't see my dad at school after that day. Unfortunately, I heard he had quit because of what happened at the teacher-parent conference. I guess you can say that was the last I ever saw of him. At first, I couldn't stop thinking about it. How can my dad leave my mom alone with nothing but a child? It's very sad. and it must have been hard for my mom. But after a while, I thought, it all had already happened, and there's nothing I can do to change it, even though I felt very distraught about the thought of my dad abandoning us. Not only once, but twice. But he's never coming back. So all I can do now is to continue to love my mom as much as she loves me, take care of her, make her happy, and move on.